Saw it happen. Taking the third most sacks in the NFL on the season. We knew it was bound to happen with the offensive line woes that the Cincinnati Bengals had. Joe Burrow.
It's a tough scene.
ACL tear, MCL tear, structural damage to the knee. Roto World said this is comparable to Carson Wentz's 2017 knee injury that knocked him out, and he kind of had to ease in the next season, but was able to get back to his former self. So I think long term, well, that remains to be seen, really. I mean, he's had some good games, though, at least for fantasy purposes. But what is the fantasy football impact of Joe Burrow being gone for the rest of the season? We thought Ryan Finley, who came in after Burrow went down, was going to take over. They fire up Brandon Allen, the 2019 Broncos starter, for 3 games before he got hurt. So it's Brandon Allen leading the way for the Bengals. What's the fantasy impact of this?
Well, first of all, this is tough to see. I mean, this actually reminds me a little bit. I'm a Colts fan, so when Andrew Luck came into the league, he got beat up year after year after year, and he avoided a major knee injury, but he had so many other injuries that caused him to miss so much time and eventually caused his retirement because enough was enough on his body. So with this Bengals team, with all the sacks Joe Burrow is taking, we hate to see it, but it was only a matter of time before he got a little bit banged up. So I really hope he can get back to full health. It does look like he could miss the start of next season, but he could play at some point next season, hopefully sooner rather than later. But that remains to be seen. I think the Bengals need to address that offensive line this offseason.
They need to spend every
piece of draft capital they have.
Cap
Absolutely.
dollar and draft capital investment, everything.
We'll talk about what the people want to know, and it's what's going to happen this year. I think every single Bengals asset gets a major downgrade. I think AJ Green, he was almost droppable before. You were kind of riding the lightning there for a while. He is droppable. I'm not starting him anywhere. I'm not even keeping him on my bench. Tee Higgins was really coming on. Joe Burrow seemed like it was his favorite target, emerging target, another rookie. I think you still have to keep him on your team. I'm probably trying to bench him this week if possible. Same goes for Tyler Boyd. Now, I know a lot of people have been relying on Higgins and Boyd for the past several weeks as Burrow in this offense has picked up. But for the time being, with Brandon Allen stepping in, this offense could be an absolute disaster. And I don't want to risk that this week when we're looking at the fantasy football playoffs. Must-win games here down the stretch.
And Burrow was averaging 40 passes a game, led the NFL in attempts, 268 yards per game, 1.3 touchdowns per game. For a rookie, those are phenomenal numbers. He was making a strong offensive rookie of the year case before that injury. And yes, I agree. There's a lot of downgrades that are going to happen in this offense. The ceiling is capped for everybody. I think the biggest impact, though, is just the amount of that passing volume. I don't see a scenario where they're going to ask Brandon Allen to throw the ball 40 times a game like they were asking Joe Burrow to do, unless they want to have 4 or 5 interceptions a game. Like, you just can't expect that much efficiency from Brandon Allen, a guy who's only had 3 starts his entire career. And I think there's still some value to be found with Tyler Boyd. I think Tyler Boyd will have that floor that he's kind of always had.
Don't drop him. Don't freak out.
No,
don't. That bad.
You can drop AJ Green.
Yes.
Think we agree on that? Okay,
Yes.
Drop AJ Green. Hold Tyler Boyd. Hold Tee Higgins. We saw a couple serviceable games from Courtland Sutton. He had a 17 and 18-point outing last year when Brandon Allen was in the lineup. We can look at some of these tendencies. I know it's a limited sample size. Brandon Allen was not a guy who was targeting the running back, and we'll get into Gio Bernard's outlook, but he was a guy who was dialed in on his ex-wide receiver, and then he had some serviceable games for Noah Fant in there. I don't know what that means for Drew Sample in this Bengals offense. I'm not interested in him at all, but you're right. Sit Higgins this week. See what happens.
Yeah.
See what happens. We saw production be there with Courtland Sutton. I think we could see that with Tee Higgins, and then I think Boyd is going to be a floor play. This team's going to be behind. They're going to be in boat races. They're going to need to air it out. I just wonder, what that efficiency is going to look like, and I don't think it's going to be that high.
And here's the thing, you sit them this week, but the volume could still be there. Now, I don't expect that Zach Taylor wants to give Brandon Allen 50 passing attempts per game, but this Bengals defense isn't good. They don't really have a running game. The line's terrible. Joe Mixon is still out. They might be game scripted into throwing the ball way more than they want to. So if we see Brandon Allen throw the ball 40, 45 times on Sunday against the New York Giants team, which the defense isn't great there, but that could tell us, even if these are inefficient attempts, inefficient targets for guys like Tyler Boyd and Tee Higgins, they could still have some flex value down the stretch. So we'll wait and see there. But let's move on to the running backs. Joe Mixon, 2 more weeks on the IR. Earliest he can return is week 14. I'm still wondering if he has a foot after that injury.
Yeah, what in the world?
So I think when Joe Mixon comes back, he's still someone you're starting. I know this offense is going to take a hit. Touchdown upside is going to be lower. They're going to rely on the running game. They're going to try to, I would think, check down to the running back and rely on Joe Mixon, who is a stud for them. But I definitely think this means they're not going to rush him back, because how many reps 2021 and beyond are they expecting Joe Mixon to get with Brandon Allen?
Exactly. I mean, if I'm the GM of the Bengals right now, it's let's get as many reps as we can to Tee Higgins, just get that rookie experience built up, and then when Joe Burrow's back, we can keep cruising. I'm plugging in Gio Bernard rest of the year. Joe Mixon can stay on his couch on IR. For Gio, he's had disappointing outings the last 2 weeks.
You can start him, though.
Single-digit carries on the ground. They're mixing in some other guys in the backfield, but he is still getting the passing work. So he's this desperation RB2. Don't flex him because there's probably a better wide receiver type of guy there. And really, any upside he would have had with scoring that touchdown, right? If he gives you the 8 points that he gets from his standard usage and then the 6 from the touchdown, you're going to be happy with Gio Bernard relative to where you need to plug him in. But that touchdown upside's not going to be there. So I'm looking for other options, but if I'm stuck with Gio, it's probably because I drafted Mixon and had him as a handcuff, and I got to keep riding him.
Yeah, I think as far as the running back goes, if you do have both Gio and Mixon, you can keep starting Gio as an RB2. When Mixon comes back, when he's healthy, you can plug him right back into the lineup. I think the volume will be there, and that's it for the Bengals. It's disappointing to see. I know a lot of people had made had been in the top of the standings this year because Joe Burrow overperformed.
Tyler Boyd, wide receiver 11.
Tyler Boyd overperformed. Tee Higgins overperformed. So those teams are going to have to make adjustments as we head into the playoffs.